All right. Hi, I'm Jesse from LoveCry, trying to run things.
And I'm Anthony, volunteering at LoveCry. And Jesse and I were having a little talk about a good topic, and we were talking about jealousy and envy. And Jesse really had this interesting angle of, what's fueling jealousy and envy, because it's one of these things. It's coming from inside, something we don't want to deal with. It's happening inside, under the surface, and then it's manifesting like I'm jealous of that person. Because I was mentioning to you about like social media and people like, look at that bitch with her fancy restaurant, or look at that bastard with his fancy car, like, or with this vacation, and people promoting like the best part of themselves on social media, which can cause a lot of strife. But even those people on the social media, aren't even that happy about the stuff they're posting. They're
No,
trying to appear that way, but
exactly.
there's this stuff going on inside. And you talked about self jealousy
Yeah,
and self envy, which I thought was really interesting, and I never really considered it,
yeah.
the way that you explained it.
Because that was something that Angel taught me a lot to change when I was going through my process too. That I was jealous of myself, that I was in my own way, trying to like sabotage my own goodness. Like I wasn't supposed to have it, so I'm gonna get in my way to not get it. You're not worthy of it. You're not good enough. So that self jealousy against yourself, and then it starts to permeate outwards to against others. Like, oh, they have this, or they could do that. They don't care about this. They like this more than this. They don't care about real issues. They might not like this. So you're constantly trying to find a reason to point blame on it, and yet really, if you really look at it, you're really in your own way. It's not someone else's jealousy. Their jealousy just connects to your jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes a negative impact at that point, and then you think it's their fault because they're jealous of you. But then you don't take into consideration that, like, if you're jealous of yourself, how can someone not be jealous of you?
If you hear voices in the background, it's two of Jesse's kids. And an example, like how I was trying to conceptualize what you're talking about, is that a person is saying, I'm not going to be good enough unless I have a certain type of job, or unless I have a certain type of degree, or unless I have a certain type of car, a certain type of girlfriend, a certain
Mhm.
type of boyfriend. So I'm not going to think that I'm good enough unless I have that. And then I don't get that, and then I'm not good enough because I haven't gotten what I've determined that I need to get to be a valid person, to accept myself. So it kind of goes with self acceptance. So these things that we don't want to look at because we feel like a failure, because we haven't done these things that we think we need to do to feel like a valid person, which are usually completely false, but that's besides the point. And you're saying we're in this loop, right? We're like this thing that I felt like I should have to feel like a real person, to feel like I'm okay. I haven't gotten it, so now I'm down on myself, and then we're going to externalize these inadequate feelings and say, look at that person, I'm jealous of what they have, because if I had that, then I would feel like I've made it, or I would feel like I'm valid, or I would accept myself. And it's always this carrot that you can never reach, because if you get that car, or you go to that restaurant, or you get that girlfriend, it doesn't help this internal dialogue of not accepting yourself if you didn't have
Because then you start to find faults with it itself, anyways, because you'll get it and attain it, but then there'll be something wrong with it. There'll be something that you don't like. There'll be something that doesn't fit, and you'll look for something else to fulfill it.
it.
And yet, the only way you can fulfill it is to look at yourself, because the self is trying to get rid of anything that will help it change, that will make it get
Like the
somewhere.
egoic,
Yeah, yeah.
scared part of ourself.
Which would be the jealous part as well, which is trying to prevent you from attaining those things because it doesn't think you're even worth it. So then you're all like, you're in your own way until you can come to that realization to know that you're in your own way. It's not other people. You're going to be constantly stuck on that loop, and you're going to be constantly stuck in those feelings of jealousy, resentment, anger. So it's very, I think it's important to understand that aspect. It's very difficult to grasp because, like, why would someone be jealous of themselves? Like, why would I want to hurt myself? Why wouldn't I want to move forward and obtain what I want? It's because sometimes inside yourself, like, what you want isn't what you want. Like, so that jealousy is just creating this hatred inside of something that you think will fulfill that, but inside you still feel jealous.
Mhm.
You know?
And there's no, it's an unquenchable thirst. It's completely unquenchable until you go to what's actually fueling it, which is this self-jealousy, this loop of like, i would I would maybe accept myself if I had that, but I don't have that, so I'm not accepting myself. And then we start externalizing and pushing things under the carpet. And unquenchable, like, think of people that start to say like, if I had a million bucks, not bucks. Maybe you like ducks. Okay, if you want a million ducks, that's okay too. If I had $1 million home, then I would think I made it. But then they get the $1 million home, then they need a $1.5 million home, and like
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
goes like, you get the dream car, and then you end up these guys that have like 15 dream cars and they can't drive them all because it's an unquenchable thirst. Like, if I had a hot girlfriend or a hot boyfriend, and then they get the hot girlfriend, the hot boyfriend, then they dump them and they want to get a hotter one or a different one, or like you said, it's finding fault with that carrot. If you grab that carrot, you're going to find fault with it, because it's not about having that carrot to accept yourself. It's about you actually accepting yourself without any carrots. And then you're not just getting something in an unquenchable thirst kind of way, but in a more real way, because you're connected and you're not hiding under the carpet. Why are you really going for that? Right? That
Yeah.
job, that degree, that girlfriend, that spouse, that house, whatever
Because
it
yeah,
is.
because a lot of people I find will chase after like a dream job that makes them think that will make them feel better, or they'll have money, or they'll have prestige, but then yet there's a part of themselves that is just not happy with that. Like it resents it. It finds problem with it, and it's because it's not happy. You're not fulfilling its happiness. You're using jealousy to try to fulfill a happiness, and then in the end, when you get it, you're like, I don't feel any different. I don't feel
Right,
better because I
right.
have this. I still feel
Um,
that loneliness. I still feel that emptiness.
that emptiness, that not acceptance, that I'm not good enough. Like, you might get it and feel okay for an hour,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
exactly,
then it's
exactly.
short lived, because there's that underlying issue, right? And that's the juicy part of doing work on yourself, is uncovering stuff and taking a good hard look at, why am I jealous of this other person? It starts from within me. Like, what is it in me that I wouldn't accept myself unless I get A, B,
Yeah.
C, or X, Y, Z?
Yeah, or if I haven't accomplished this or this by now, then what does that mean for me? Because like even for me, like being a 42-year-old man in school, like just starting, trying to get like a job, trying to move forward, like it's it's hard to accept that because I should be past that in a sense. If you look at society wise, like I should already be situated. I should already be almost ready to retire, not be like just starting my field, like just moving into like what I find passion about.
I'm just smirking, because like, you never know what someone else sees when they look at you, right? You might get a bald guy looking at you and say, "Oh my God, I would give up everything to have hair," or you might get a short guy looking at you and say, "Oh my God, I would give up everything." So you never know what you have. It's unbelievable. Like, a friend of mine met one of the richest men in all of Italy, and he said, "I would give up everything for one pair of shorts and to be in my 20s again." And then you might have a guy in his 20s and saying, "Oh, I suck because I haven't got this or I haven't got that." You don't know what you have. Like, you always have something to count as a blessing. You've got like some wonderful kids. You've got your wife. You've got your family life. You've got an incredible amount of vision. Which is why I'm so what's the word for it, inspired to do these videos with you, because I want your vision to benefit people that watch these, and your insight and your understanding. Because the jealousy thing was wild. Like what you said to me, I was like, wow, there's like a whole new level of jealousy that's underneath. And that's the exciting thing, because if you can work on the roots of something,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about this plant growing back all the time,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's the power of what we're talking about, is you're working in the roots of stuff.
Yeah,
And
and like I wasn't like what I was saying too is that like I wasn't able to obtain these things. Like I was supposed to be something else, and all the work I did, all those things I did, helped change me to this point. Kind of got off topic a little bit, so.
Oh, well, like when you were in your 20s, you're like, okay, I'm going to build a career as a fireman or whatever.
Oh
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that got sidetracked because that wasn't your path. That wasn't what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was when I was 21, I went to for firefighting at Seneca, and then all of my family issues came up and sent me on a whole other direction. It's taken 20 years to get here in that direction, but it changed. it changed my entire life. Um, so like when it came to like self jealousy and things like that, like it was it's hard to even say. Uh,
It was this hidden thing that was
yeah,
throwing you.
like it was just something that like I guess I never even fathomed was even a part of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when it was even brought up, it was just kind of like, this is stupid in a
Right.
sense,
Right.
like what are you
No, I'm
talking
glad
about?
you're sharing that because someone watching this video is like, "What the hell are you talking about? Self jealousy?" Like, no, I'm jealous of that external crap, not inside myself. And so that's where you were too. When these things were first presented to you, it didn't make sense. You didn't accept it, but then you saw, as you did the work, you saw it to be true.
Yeah,
You know.
it's unbelievable what our mind does and how it switches things to be outwardly rather than inwardly. And we've also been conditioned to do so by the westernized society. So we never really look at the core. We're always kind of looking for blame, generalizations, something that could just make us forget about it, like let's just move
Yeah, everything's
forward,
forward, forward.
you
Where are
know?
you going though? And
Yeah,
where were you coming from?
yeah, exactly. We're all moving
What's under
forward.
the hood that I'm moving forward
Yeah,
with? You know.
and technology is advancing and advancing, but our mental health is falling behind. So these things, like if we really break it down, jealousy has never even been addressed in society. It's always been addressed as some of you're jealous of this, you don't have that, you're jealous of your girlfriend going out with boys, like you're just it's never really about like you're actually jealous about your own life. Like you're jealous of yourself, you're in your own way.
You know, you mentioned being 42. I'm 54, and that's one of the exciting things about if you're watching this video and you're in your 20s, you're like, I can get this wisdom that these guys, have done with their work on themselves and over time, decades. I can partake of it now in my 20s or my teens or however old you are watching this. And if you're older than us watching this like I say, if you're still breathing, it's not too late.
Yeah,
You can improve the rest of your life, the quality of the rest of your life, your peace, your ease, your understanding of yourself, which is what fuels everything that happens outside happens from inside. So you change the inside, then the outside is going to change itself, and who you are is going to change itself. Who are you being in any situation is going to be transformed towards you
and
being more real in yourself and grounded.
and then you could really love yourself from a real place rather than in some fictitious thing of what you think you have to love or what you
Right.
think you
I'm
have
going
to
to pat
like.
myself on the back because I worked 48 hours
Yeah,
last week. Like,
yeah, yeah,
is that real self acceptance? Like,
yeah.
love is not conditional, and
Exactly.
jealousy is conditional. Like, I'm going to accept myself when I hit this condition.
Yeah, yeah.
If
I'll
I
be
satisfy
okay if
this
I get to
condition.
this point. Yeah, if I
Right.
get to that point, then I'll lay off of myself. And it's like, oh, you'll never get to that point. Like the way you get to that point is by letting go, is by understanding yourself, forgiving, and actually being there with yourself and understanding that our negative feelings, our judgments, our jealousy, all these things have an impact on us. And then instead of taking the blame, someone else did this.
Right.
Like it had nothing to do with me. And that one comes big with me because when like with my ex partner, with my daughter, and the issues that we went through, um, I lost track of myself.
Oh. Oh,
Sorry.
with like the self acceptance and the self jealousy and the societal thing of externalizing everything like it. I'm down on myself because the job market is low because we have too much immigration or we have too many people with degrees or too much competition for jobs. So that's externalizing why I'm down on myself rather than am I accepting myself just because.
Yeah, and then like I guess what I was gonna say with that too is that when I lost my daughter, there was a lot of complications, anger, upset, and blame, which I could have continued to do so and blame the mom for what is happening. Instead, I was able to look at my causations, like my reactions, my input, my energy into the situation, into what happened. And from there, it takes away that inner blame, like like it takes that anger, that like it's that negativity out of it so that you can see what's real. Because with that negativity, you don't get to see what's real, and then you got a bunch of professionals who don't know, have a clue, trying to assess what's happening.
And it's reactionary rather
Yeah,
than actionary, but it's also so empowering because It's disempowering to say, that woman, that system, that organization, that's disempowering. And it's
Yeah.
very empowering to say, what was my energy? What was my intention?
Yeah.
What was my reaction? So that's empowering because you have complete control over your own understanding of yourself.
No, that's a good point. I never even thought about it that way. But yeah, it is completely more empowering because it's you or yourself doing it. It's not someone else. You don't have to depend on someone else to make yourself happy or to make yourself feel good. You know it comes from within, and that's something that like it's hard to even teach in a society. It's something that you have to feel. And with society, we're constantly go, 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 go. So you don't have the chance to sit and feel. You just have the chance to listen to what you're told. Your head's telling you this, okay, that's what I'm doing. It feels good. I don't have to worry about it. But then your kids have problems or they're upset and then you don't want to deal with that. But then that's only because of that action. You're refusing to deal with them because you're not dealing with yourself, and it's just it's like a constant ripple effect, and it just passes around in circles, and then the kids have problems, and that's why mental health is growing so steadily in society now, and it's becoming such a, I think, a phenomenon that no one even knows how to even address it. We talk, we say things, but yet mental health is growing. There's more people on medications when they don't need to be. There's certainly some that need medications, but not all of them. And if we actually work on like jealousy, the resentment, the anger, we'll see different aspects of what mental health is, because mental health is thinking that way. That makes you mentally ill, is when you're thinking negative, jealous, resentful. That's mental illness. Not not because you're doing something some guy thinks is crazy or doesn't agree with you. That doesn't mean that it's that, like, you.
So mental illness is brought about by bad. So, you talk about, if you smoke and you eat real bad and you never exercise, like these are practices that bring you to an unhealthy physical state,
Mhm.
and mental practices that bring you to an unhealthy mental state, whether it's depression, anxiety, and anything else that can be an unhealthy, is these practices, these daily activities of, are we being jealous? Are we being envious? And if
It's
we are, it's rather than being like, okay, I'm not going to be jealous anymore. Like
yeah.
it's about, you have to go to the roots of the problem, right? And that's why I think your messages are so powerful, because you're not just telling people what not to do. You're telling them, like, when you get to the root of the problem, then you're not going to want to be jealous and envious.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why that's like one of the, I don't know, I think it's one of the cardinal sins, like envy. But it's a cardinal sin for a reason, because it hurts you. But where does it actually come from? So it's not just about being like, a good Christian, and I'm just not going to do that, and I'm just going to use sheer willpower not to
Yeah.
do it. It's about going to the
Exactly.
root of the problem.
Because that's just another way of covering it up.
uh
Like, oh, I don't need to think about it. I'll never think about
It's
that
like
again.
a whack a mole. Like you try to whack the mole here, but it comes up over there. And it's like it's just a whack a
And it's
mole
another
game.
condition. How dare you think like that?
Yeah, and then
You
you're gonna be
know?
down more
Yeah,
on
yeah,
yourself
yeah, exactly.
because you.
Exactly. You're gonna say you're an idiot, da da da. Like it just reinforces one another, and it's like that. It's like a tacit agreement within itself. It's just like, you're gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, and then they're all doing that inside your head, and you're like, why is it happening? And then we look for, oh, it's because this person made me feel
It's because
bad.
of social media.
Yeah,
It's because of
yeah,
Instagram.
exactly.
That's why it's
They're
not my
praying to
it's
this
not my
guy.
fault.
Like they believe this. Like, what is this? Like it's just more judgment and jealousy, and it never really looks at why we're thinking that way, and it's always looking for validation to think that way instead of looking for reasoning that there's some more understanding to happen, rather than, you did this, it's your fault, if you weren't alive this would be better. Like,
And we're talking about potentially very old loops, like this old loop of like, if I
yeah.
had that, then I would accept myself, but I don't have that, so I don't accept myself. And then, this loop has gone around, and you might have even forgotten what the hell it was that you
Mhm.
originally put into that loop.
And it
And
gets
so it's
buried.
about, it gets bigger, it
Yeah.
gets more powerful. So like, go in there, because you don't need that loop.
Yeah, it's kind of like Inception in a sense. I don't know if whoever's seen Inception, but it's a movie, and they go through there's like elevator that he goes through and down, and as he further gets down and down and down, the worse the commotion goes on. And then as well, when they're trying to create their I don't know what they call it, their schemes or their other world around them, his negative parts start coming into it and hurting the people around him, and people are like, what's happening? And he's like trying to hide it and ignore it, but it keeps coming up in his like manifestations. So yeah, so like the different layers of thoughts. It's a great movie for that, for the inception, because it shows you each layer gets worse and worse and more defensive, more guards up, more this is what I believe,
There's
this is
nothing
who
wrong
I
with me.
am.
No, it's external problems. It's
Yeah,
not nothing internal. Oh, I'm just a nice guy, like.
yeah, exactly. And then the more we tell ourselves these things, the more they get buried and buried and buried until finally you got like cement on top of that. You're like, how dare you accuse me of thinking like that? I'm this. And then it becomes another like debate or argument and jealousy of like, this is who I am, when it's like you're not even paying attention to who you are.
So maybe an important point of like embarking on this journey, to heal inside is to be coachable. Like, I don't consciously think he's right at all, but let me just pretend for a little bit that there's some stuff there that I need to look at, right? Because I mean, I was on this woman saying we all have insecurities, and she was shocked when I said that. I was like, we all have insecurities, and it's part of this self judgment and self jealousy.
Yeah.
So even if you don't feel it, just be coachable and say, well, I have felt jealous about certain things in the past, so maybe I do have some roots there that I need to uncover and discover. And you were saying earlier, Jesse, that when you see something that's been covered, when you look at it, you see it. That's a big part of the healing. It's not like you have to do some weird hocus pocus once you see it. Like once you're like, oh, is that what my loop was? That I wasn't good enough unless I got high marks, and in grade 4 I got a bad mark, and then I told myself I have to get good marks, and maybe the loop was running all the way since grade 4. But once you really remember that, it's like it doesn't have power anymore. You just looked at it.
Yeah, and then
So
you just have to process the emotions. That's what you have to do
like
after
remember
that.
how you felt. Like,
Yeah,
I felt
exactly.
like I
Go
wasn't
through
good
those
enough.
emotions and understand it with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, so don't be like, oh, you should. How stupid were you then?
Right.
Like
No,
it's,
have compassion for yourself.
yeah,
Like this is what I felt, and it was real for me. And
yeah, exactly. 'Cause we all feel these things for a reason. Like, we're not necessarily supposed to feel perfect in every situation. We're supposed to feel different, odd, and that's how you learn. Because then you question it, and then like you communicate, and then understanding happens. So that's an important aspect too.
all part of the ongoing healing process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's something that could go on forever, because
And it
jealousy
does.
is a huge thing. Because like especially when people are jealous of you, that does cause a lot of problems. Especially if you're loving them
Mm.
and you're not knowing of the jealousy. So you could love someone who's jealous, but if you're loving them and you don't have protection, knowing that they're jealous, that jealousy is permeating through you, and it's causing harm because you're not acknowledging it, you're not protecting yourself from it. So if you're in close corners, like if you live with someone who's jealous of you and you're loving them, not knowing that they're doing this, it will have negative effects on you. It will have negative effects on things that are happening, how you feel about yourself, and they'll all be internalized as yourself. And that's why it's important to look at the jealousy of yourself, because when you understand the jealousy of self, it's very hard for people to apply jealousy against you.
Because it has to have something to latch onto.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about how in other episode that you can have a thought that could be kind of implanted from someone else, so you've absorbed it. But if it has less to grab onto that's similar, then it's not going to be as sticky to you,
Yeah,
right?
because your mind, you'll hear it and you're like, this what? And then you'll talk it through, and then you'll find where it's coming from.
Mm.
Other than that, like because that's an important part, because like you can start to feel like if someone's permeating you with all these thoughts, especially if you've been around them for a long time, it's harder than if you've been around, like haven't been around and you've been around, and then your thoughts pop up, because then it's kind of easier to make that connection. But if you're around someone who's loving you, or you're loving them and caring, and they're jealous of you, that's going to cause a lot of damage. It'll
Mm.
cause a lot of negative effects on how you feel, and you can like what you call it, like take it in as it's you.
Right, you can identify these
Yeah,
things as
yeah,
this is me, but it's actually might not be you.
yeah. It's
Right.
definitely these feelings, and that's why you can't get rid of it, because it's not necessarily you, but the way you can get rid of it though is by addressing your jealousy. You can't get rid of it by addressing someone else's jealousy of you. Like that might give you understanding of them, but that doesn't get rid of that connection.
Mm.
And the jealousy, when you realize it in yourself, then you see it in others. And a lot of times people don't like that.
Mm.
And then they kind of like it's like an instant thing. Like they'll see you and they'll won't you don't have to communicate. They'll just feel that and they'll just be like, can't talk to that person, because it's a void in itself. It doesn't want to be caught. It doesn't want any information to let itself be aware, so it doesn't unveil the curtain.
Because the blocks that we have want to remain blocked.
Yeah.
But if you have that kind of vision, then it's less likely to be played on you. It can't be played on you if you have that inner awareness. You've done that inner schooling.
Yeah, and even still, it still can affect you. It's just being aware of your thoughts and feelings at those times. It makes it harder for those thoughts to just creep in. There's this like you'll hear them and be like, "What are you saying?" And then you could like talk back, try to figure out why it's feeling that way instead of just push it aside and accept it as you. And because Angel taught me that one a lot. That people can love to try to like implant their stuff into you, like to get rid of feelings,
Right.
deny. So someone comes into your presence, they're denying everything. You feel that, like you'll put on, like you'll feel jealousy, resentment, anger. You will just feel an intense overwhelm of emotions because they're not feeling anything. And if you try to engage in a conversation, it will just it like permeates, especially if they're not engaging you just feel like that's when you have to protect, and that's what white light helps as well. But I don't know, I've taken too far off
No, this
topic
is
of
this is awesome
jealousy.
because we're talking about what's inside ourselves, but it's very important because, we talked about before, like your thoughts aren't always your thoughts. So it's knowing that is good. Like because
Yeah,
if you don't know that, then you can't even address an issue that might not be your thought. But it is definitely possible to have a thought pop up in your head, but it was because of someone else's unfinished business who you're dealing with.
yeah.
Um,
And even still, if you're jealous of someone too, you could be taking their thoughts.
because
you
it
know
becomes a link.
Yeah, and
That
then you start
jealousy.
thinking that you think like this and think like them, and then now you're depleting them as well. So you could actually deplete others as well if you're not paying attention to, which is harmful. So it's always important to. I guess that's the mindfulness aspect too. Like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
really pay attention to the negative, because the negative isn't negative in a sense. It's not bad.
Like don't beat it up.
Yeah,
Don't like, oh, get out of here. Like
yeah,
because then you're not working on it.
yeah.
You're
It's
not
there for a
accepting it.
reason. Yeah,
Accept it, work on it.
you need these guys. You need these guys to survive, to live in life. But when they're out of control and protecting you against things to where it just feels like you need protection, but you don't, then it's going to cause you harm because you're going to start rejecting, you're going to start creating things to make it the way you want it to be, if that's
Like manipulating things and things that are negative can happen to justify these defense mechanisms.
yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
we can materialize these
Manifest
bad
it.
things
Yeah.
that
To justify
yeah.
our way of thinking.
Yeah.
So we manifest this in life to be like, see, I told you all.
Right.
Like, look, I'm right.
Mhm.
But yet it's like that's just an instance for you.
But if you
Like
work on the roots, then you won't have to manifest these things to teach you what your roots are doing,
yeah.
because you're getting rid of the roots by just looking at them, and then they're not root. When you pull roots out of the ground, they're not roots anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's just dirt.
it's just like twiggly looking things.
No, awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
So thanks, guys.
I just want the kids wanted to say something. Skylar, Sadie, come in here. Are you gonna say something? Hurry up. You're playing guitar apparently.
They're playing guitar. Yeah, they're teaching each other. They're
Get in
teaching
there. Are you in
self-taught
there?
guitar.
Bye bye.
Who's this? Where are you?
My name is Skylar.
Yay. Sadie, you coming?
Bye bye.
All right, it's taking its time apparently. Is she coming?
Nope.
No.
She's too afraid.
She's too afraid.
Okay.
All right, she's got the chickens.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening. Like we've said before, if you have any comments or suggestions or things that you want us to talk about, I'm more than glad to hear them as well. Thank you.
Sounds good. good. Sounds good.
Take care. Thanks for listening.